A video going viral depicts what appears to be a kidnapping, taken from a Ring doorbell. We're seeing the front porch of someone's home, a woman standing on it as a car drives past, and a woman in the car lets out a blood-curdling scream, "Please help me," as she shrieks and cries. And I have to admit, this thing shook me to my core. This scream is one of it's fuel for nightmares. I really do mean that. I'm gonna play this clip for you in a second, and I'm warning you. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of women who understand this fear that this could be you. I mean, this could be anybody. You're walking outside minding your business. Someone grabs you, throws you in a vehicle. I want to read for you this news story, but I also pulled up some other stories, and I just want to talk about safety. And I often talk about, there are a lot of women who travel by themselves, and I hope this serves as a warning that you must be responsible for your safety. Of course, always, we blame these criminals and these lunatics who go around kidnapping and selling women and abusing them. But to a certain degree, you have to make sure you are vigilant and watching out, because these people exist. They don't care about rules. They don't care about what you think. They don't care about who's responsible. They are evil, sick people. I'm going to play this clip for you now. And again, I'm warning you, to a young woman or a woman who might fear this kind of thing, this may be shocking. But even to me, to a father, to a brother, to a husband, to a boyfriend, this is it'll send chills down your spine. So I have the clip here, and I'm going to play it. I'm going to try and turn that up for you guys and play it once more so that I'm not trying to get shock out of this. I'm just hoping you can hear this, because this may be one of the best ways to convey to people the seriousness of taking care of yourself and your loved ones. This is no joke. It's no laughing matter. I seriously hope the police figure out what happened. They find this woman and they find out if she's okay. There's apparently some tweets going around claiming that she busted out of the car and ran full speed, or she was limping. But I don't believe these are true. For now, they don't know what happened. So let's get real. It's a flash. You're outside minding your own business. A car pulls up and somebody grabs you by the throat, throws you in a car, and you're gone. They know what the car looks like, but by the time, think about it. You're in Los Angeles. You're a couple hours away from another country. Not only that, in Los Angeles, they could easily drive into any area, and the police are going to show up 5 to 10 minutes later and ask what happened and say, "We have no idea." As much as people in cities like to rely on police, let me remind you, police typically respond after the fact. Now, there are instances where a crime is currently being committed. The police show up and can do something about it. But when it comes to a kidnapping, it can't. They can show up after the fact, they can investigate, and hopefully they can figure it out, but you've got, less than 24 hours. I believe Los Angeles is only a couple hours to Mexico, and you're gone. So let's read the story, and then I want to talk to you about look, man, these stories are terrifying. I did a simple search, and there's a story from the New York Post. A woman was sitting on outside of her house listening to music when a guy walks up, grabbed her by the throat, beat the crap out of her, threw her in a car, and she was gone. Now, there's complicated issues to some of these stories, but she was essentially sold into slavery. And it wasn't until a few years later that she was able to get justice. She was able to get justice, and they arrested these guys who had sold her into slavery. There's also a couple other stories that I've seen periodically throughout Reddit. One where there was a woman leaving a bar with her boyfriend and her boyfriend's friends. And she was texting or something. So she was 10 feet behind her boyfriend when a car pulled up, the door popped open, a guy jumps out, grabs her and drags her into the car while she screams. And fortunately, the boyfriend was able to grab her leg. And as they were trying to speed off, he was able to pull her out. These stories, these happen, man, especially when you're close to the southern border. So let's try and get as many details as we can in the story. They say KTLA5 says, Possible kidnapping investigated after woman screams captured on doorbell video in Leimert Park. A day after, home security video emerged of a woman's terrified screams for help as a vehicle drove by in a Leimert Park neighborhood. Police on Thursday said they need the public's help in locating a possible kidnapping victim. I don't think so, man. I'm sorry. She's gone. I mean, you keep looking and they may find her, but we've seen so many stories of people who go missing, kidnapped, and it's years later they're found. It's going to be very difficult to track this down. The Ring doorbell video was captured along 3rd Avenue around 11:10 p.m. Tuesday, about the time LA police said they responded to a report of a kidnapping on the street. On the street. So what is it? It sounds like the woman was on the street and someone just grabbed her. Investigators said they responded to the scene Tuesday, but were unable to find evidence of a crime. The chilling video that emerged Wednesday, however, prompted them to reopen the case. They closed this case. She's gone. They had to reopen it because of the video. The video doesn't show a kidnapping, but a woman can be heard frantically pleading, "Help, somebody help me," as a sedan passes by. It's true, it may not be a kidnapping, but what could it be if someone is screaming in a car, "Please help me," as a car drives by? I guess theoretically it could be a woman. She was injured, she's bleeding maybe. But if she's in a car being helped, I doubt she'd be screaming, "Help me," especially if the driver was heard shouting, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Witnesses told detectives the car was possibly a white four-door Toyota Prius with 2 people inside. It appeared a black woman or girl with dark braided hair was in the front passenger seat, while the driver was described as a black man. One witness saw the victim's hair being pulled back while she screamed, and there was plastic wrap on the front passenger window, as if the vehicle was recently involved in a collision. The driver was heard shouting, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." The car was last seen speeding south down 3rd Avenue. LAPD on Wednesday said officers responded to the 3800 block of 3rd Avenue around 11 p.m. Tuesday, but the department's Thursday news release stated witnesses on the 3000 block of 3rd Avenue observed the car around 11:20 p.m. Tuesday. The Ring video is from a home on the 3800 block of 3rd Avenue with an 11 p.m. timestamp. I've heard stories like this before, and I will stress we don't know what's going on yet. This could be a lot of things. I honestly don't know. It could be an abusive boyfriend refusing to let her out of the car, but I in my opinion, I've seen fights. I have seen abusive relationships. This to me, "Please somebody help me," screaming and crying. It sounds like a kidnapping. I mean, look, I get it. A boyfriend could kidnap his girlfriend, but it's reported as a kidnapping on the street. So here's the thing. I did a quick Google search, and I wanted to look into these stories because I've read a lot of these stories, man. The first thing I want to show you is this story from just last year in August. I was kidnapped and sold into sex slavery. This woman, she says, a Romanian woman who was snatched from a London street and trafficked as a sex slave, has told of her horrifying ordeal, revealing she was forced to sleep with thousands of men. She was listening to music and reaching into her bag for keys when she was grabbed by the neck and dragged into a car in Wood Green, North London. She said, "It's hard to scream when you feel so threatened. They had my papers, they knew where my mom was, they knew everything about me." Apparently, a gang of 2 men and a woman stole her passport, took her to the airport right away, where they forced her to board a flight. Immediately, many people may say, how do they force someone to board a flight? Airports have security. Yeah, yes, I understand. But there are some people, they react this way. And I know it's hard for people to get. They're like, why wouldn't you scream? I can't tell you why someone would or wouldn't do something. People might be in shock. They might be terrified. They may have threatened her mom and said, "If you say anything, we know where your mom is." And so she kept her mouth shut. She was snatched from her home. They knew who she was. They probably planned this. And she was sold into slavery from a London street. Like I mentioned, that story I read on Reddit. Leaving a bar with her boyfriend and her friends, thinking everything is fine. So look, man, I don't want you to leave thinking the world is dangerous, everyone's going to come for you. This stuff is extremely rare. But I do want to make sure it's clear to people that it can happen. You can win the lottery. Yep. Winning the lottery can be a great experience. You get a lot of money. But there's a negative. There's statistical lotteries in that you could be the victim of one of these crimes, and it's going to disproportionately affect women. And this exemplifies exactly why I'm frustrated by so many people encouraging women to do these solo female travel things. There's so much security that goes. Like, if you're a dude and you want to travel the world by yourself. You need security prep. You need inoculations. You got to go to the doctor. You got to prepare for these things. In all of the trips that I used to do traveling the world, we did security assessments. We would bring armor to some places. And you have these outlets saying, like, by all means, go and do this. This happened in Los Angeles. This happened in London. What do you think is going to happen if you're in Pakistan or Syria? Now, of course, there are a lot of women who go about, these trips just fine. But if you think that you're invincible, that you're immune, or that your family and your loved ones are, you're sadly mistaken. So I'll tell you, what really frustrates me about so much of this don't blame the victim mentality is that, while yes, we seek justice against those who commit these crimes, we blame the criminals. It doesn't mean it's your fault. It just means if you want to avoid this, you must protect yourself. Now, of course, there are a lot of people sharing the story, the LA story, advocating for the Second Amendment. And I have to say, it's one of the most compelling arguments. What is it saying? When seconds matter, the police are there in minutes. When I lived in Miami, I was in the farmlands, in the Redlands area. We had reports of home invasions and murders. And we also knew that even though we were only 40 miles outside of Miami, a big city, it would take the police about a half an hour to get to our house because it was essentially farmland. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's on large acre properties with the neighbors were close, but still pretty spread out. And we had an incident where someone actually was snooping around on our property, jumping over our fence. What do we do? And I asked some of my liberal friends, what do you do? You think no one should ever have a personal home defense or weapon? Like, I can understand. Like, I'm fairly moderate when it comes to these issues. I think, like Joe Rogan's much more pro-gun. But I think it's fair to say that there can be proper, regulation to protect from people who shouldn't get weapons getting weapons. But for the most part, we need to be able to protect ourselves because you can't just assume everyone will be safe all the time. Now, I can understand the argument. So typically what I say when it comes to cities is that the police are there and there's a lot of witnesses and people around who can help you if something goes wrong. But this just shows it's not always the case. That if this woman was armed, she wouldn't have been kidnapped. That's just a fact. No matter what you want to say, we can argue about accidental discharge and injury, and we can argue about violent criminals, and we can also argue the inverse that this woman standing on the street who was allegedly, they're saying it was a street kidnapping, when they went to grab her, she could have unholstered her weapon and protected herself. And maybe, but I don't want to act like that's a guarantee. It's not a guarantee simply because you have a weapon. They could go up behind you, disarm you, and there's a lot of things. But you've got to take care of yourself. You've got to protect yourself. I wanted to do this video because I just see too many of these stories where it's people go hiking in Tajikistan and we know what happens next. People go hiking in Morocco and we see what happens. But more importantly, while we can talk about the dangers of the world outside of our glorious American first world bubble, the sad truth is on the streets of Los Angeles, this could happen to you. It could happen to your daughter, your wife, your girlfriend, your aunt, your mom. It could happen to someone you care about, or more importantly, it could happen to you. It's more likely to affect women, but I could not imagine what it must feel like to be taken in that way. I don't know what it is. And my biggest fear is that it's slavery, because we've heard these stories on the southern border. They do this. They go to border towns where it's easy to flee the country and escape the jurisdiction of the United States. And they will look for young women and they will take them. And that's it. There's nothing you can do. You as much as we like to think that many cultures in the world have become civilized or that all cultures are equal, the fact is there are many cultures that still practice slavery. And there are individuals, even within the United States, that have no qualms about selling you into slavery, given the chance. There's slavery happening in Libya right now, and this is young men. But around the world, there's a substantial number of sex slaves. And I can only imagine what some of these people would pay for a nice American woman. They probably would love it. These people are sick, twisted individuals. And it's probably why it happens. But I can't tell you, who knows what this was. But that scream sends chills down my spine. And it's what nightmares are made of. Let me know what you think. I don't know. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. YouTube.com/Timcast. Different channel. It's my main channel, and I will see you all there.